Welcome to my Christmas Snow Village build video. This is for the village that I built for Christmas of 2022. It's now fall of 2023, so it's getting to be that time to start thinking about what are we going to do this year. So in case I build the same layout, I wanted to document what I did. I unfortunately didn't record anything while I was building the village last year, but I did record me taking it apart, and then I'm reversing everything. So I'm going to make it look like I'm putting the thing together here. And really, this is for me to remember what I did, but also it could give you some inspiration for a village of your own. So I start out by laying out a special board that I had built myself across some card tables. And then you can see that for this year, the train was new. That's part of why I want to document this. So I got some train track laid back there in the back. And then I just start building up styrofoam. These are various pieces of styrofoam that I've accumulated over time. You can see I'm trying to build a back tunnel here. So this is that back tunnel that goes underneath the quote-unquote mountain of the village. And I was wondering about the height, if the train was going to be scraping across. And it was. As I put buildings on top of the styrofoam, it made the styrofoam snag and it was catching the top of the train. So that piece of screwdriver right there, it's one of those modular screwdrivers you can take apart. I actually wedged that in underneath, as you can see, standing at the center of the styrofoam up. And it's basically a strut, a support there, so that the train can now pass back under that tunnel there without scraping its roof on the styrofoam. So again, just styrofoam that's been accumulated, and then these are those insulation boards that you can get at Lowe's. And I am starting to lay things out. I've got some of the lights you can see up there almost ready to go, and I'm trying to lay down snow blanket type stuff as I'm going, so that I can get the train track over it, as you can see there. I'm going to be introducing more tables here. You can see the one that has the buildings on it. Those are 4 foot by I think 2 foot, and they fold up. They're just from Walmart, and they're really handy to have for this situation. So here I am starting to piece together the way the lights are going to go. So I'm taking that light string. I'm going to be pulling it across from right to left, across the topmost part, and then I'll be bringing it, and then it'll wrap around on the next level down from left to right. Here I'm using one of the boxes for one of the buildings just to give some elevation in the back there to this big tree. So I'm going to pop that big tree back there in the back. Just wrap it up in some snow blanket. And this is literally reversed video. So this is actually, the video is actually me taking these things apart. And I'm just reversing the video for you so that it has more of what I'm trying to do here of actually kind of building. What I'm doing there is, so that styrofoam is uneven. It's got all those gaps in it. And I'm taking just little boxes of the various things that the various accessories, and I'm putting those little boxes in there to try to fill the gap, to just try to get more of a level surface for the buildings that are going to be on that topmost level. Oh, wiring. I tell you, wiring is a big part of this. But in this case, that box and then another box is going into that gap, I think, to help raise up the level of that, even out that platform. We've got some more accessories going in. So the gaps are kind of handy for hiding the power boxes. You can see that battery box for that accessory. The gaps are nice for hiding the battery boxes. But sometimes I need to be able to support a building across those gaps as well. We got a car. our old classic Ford, and that box will go in there. And then another accessory box, those yard lights that I was just setting up with the Santa Claus and the snowman, that'll go there. And again, just trying to flesh out the top surface of this topmost level. Getting that snow blanket going as we're moving along. I love that string because not every socket needs to be filled with a bulb, and so on this part here where I'm wrapping around from the top level to come down to the next level down, I can just leave sockets empty and the whole thing will still work. So now we're starting to figure out how the lighting is going to go left to right now. I think this is a 25 socket string. We're going to get that stretched across the next level down. As you can see from the intro, my layout is for, visibility from the front. I am not trying to build a layout that resembles a real city or a real village in real life with the way the streets go and all the buildings having access to a road. It's not that kind of realism that I'm going for here. Here's another string. I think this one has 6 sockets on it. And that will keep stretching across here. So I'm going to plug that into the 25. So one long string of essentially 36 bulbs, I think. So having your idea in advance of what you want to do really helps, so that you don't have to come back through after you've laid all your buildings out to figure out the wiring. Being able to figure out the wiring early at this point is really ideal. But I'll admit that when I first did this design, I did place buildings, roughed it out, and that did help. But when you're doing a new layout you've never tried before, you really do just need to try it. And yeah, it does mean that you'll be taking things out that you may have already put in so that you can fish the wiring around the way you need it to go. This is our country club, and we've got the little ice skating out in front of it, and I like these little stand-up large candles lighting for the effect for that ice skating area. It's got a little bit of that tacky stuff. You can buy little tacky stuff. It's hobby tack. I don't know what it's called. It actually, some of it came with. I bought a lot of these used off of Craigslist. So some of it came with a big box of accessories that I got off of Craigslist, and so the tacky stuff was actually already on these candles underneath. It just helps them to stand up straight. Otherwise, they don't want to. As you can see there, I think that's the Walmart brand. I'm not totally consistent with my branding across the whole village. I think it's more fun to just find pieces that you like. Although for the main buildings, we really do try to keep it to Department 56, Original Snow Village. So I believe our main buildings are from that series, and then we go off-brand for various accessories. So like that water tower. You'll see a greenhouse here pretty soon. That's also a Walmart brand. I think that little bakery that's in the shot right now is also a Walmart brand. I'm really good at walking backwards. I don't trip over anything. Again, just trees are mostly a thing you put in the end, right? Trees are one of the one of the best and relatively affordable ways to really fill out your snow village and take it from just a building and train display to actually feeling more like a village. Get as many trees as you can when you finish your village and you see, like, God, why doesn't this feel, as nice or warm or villagey? And it's probably because of the trees. So I just will add those in at the end. But for the trees that have wiring here, I know I'm trying to get my wiring in early. So that's why you see a couple trees right there. Those light up. And then we're starting to get our front tables laid out. Now, I had a different layout last year. I did not have the train. The train is new. So these styrofoam pieces, the cuts and the sizing and the shapes of them are from previous village builds. And so I'm trying to do my best here to piece together a platform for everything to sit on that's at the same level all the way across, left to right, so that I can get the train into this village. So you see those gaps there, and that's the part where these snow blankets become essential to your layout, because not only do they help cover up your wiring, but you can literally have gaps in the flooring of your display, which is really helpful for running wiring, actually, right? But you can have your gaps in the display, and then the snow blanket covers up those gaps. And then later on, I'll be putting down the snow, like like these are just almost not felt, but they're not the cottony snow either. They literally are like little sheets. But I also have the cotton stuff, the stuff that feels more like you're pulling cotton apart. I have that stuff that then gets laid over the sheet as well. So the sheet is really there to just hide the styrofoam as much as possible and hide the wiring as much as possible. So now we're filling in the buildings. And again, this video is to just help me remember what I did last year in case I go for the same layout again this year. I don't anticipate, I'm not going to be shopping for new buildings this year. It's really just a space concern. This is our dining room, and we do have a dining room table that we like to use in this room. And when we do the holiday dinners during the season, it's important to have that dining room table available. But the display has gotten so large that I am literally pulling the dining room table all the way to the left of the shot you're seeing here, which is our front living room, which is where the Christmas tree, the big Christmas tree is with all the ornaments on it. So the dining room table takes up the living room and it's almost up against the Christmas tree. So it's not quite ideal. And I really do feel like for the space, I've kind of maxed out how much of the room I can take up. Because the room is also a walkway. It's a walk through the dining room from the front of the house back to the kitchen. So I can't just completely fill this room. So again, more wiring, and now we're able to start bringing the train track around. I do try to group things in a little bit of a sensible way. So you can see that that's the bowling alley there. It's kind of that area will kind of be the fun zone of the village. It'll have the bumper cars over there as well. I think the roller rink, skating rink, will be over there as well. So then I try to cluster residential together, and then have like a business district, and then a park with the different kind of park activities. So, I do put some thought into it. It's not just random buildings. And I do, as you see, I do have a sidewalk going, uh, cobblestone paths or brick paths. So I do try to give it that look of like, hey, this is a village. Um, but yeah, you notice at the end, or if you saw at the beginning when the thing was fully built out, that this topmost level here, these folks can walk out onto this sidewalk that dead ends on the left and right. Um, I guess you have to kind of assume that if they have cars, maybe there's a street behind there where the wall of the living room, the wall of the dining room is. I don't know. Again, wiring can get really complicated. These little spotlights are great. I would kind of like to get more. Um, I really love having my display on in the evening with no ambient light in the room. So I don't turn on the ceiling lights of the dining room. And it makes all of the cool lighting really pop. But then some of my accessories aren't lit. And so those little spotlights are essential to casting some light, some warm light across various accessories that I want to highlight, but that don't have their own lighting. And it's fun, it's a challenge, but it's kind of fun to then try to hide those spotlights a little bit, to try to make them less obvious or intrusive in the sight line that you have when you're looking at the display. This is always a problem, using painter's tape to try to get these wires tucked up underneath. Over time during the season, the painter's tape just starts to give way. So sometimes I have to crawl under there and tape things back up. I try to keep an eye on it, but I also try to secure the wiring in other ways, so that if the tape gives way and a battery box starts hanging, that it's not going to pull some lit up trees right off of the display table. So I have some fairy lights. These are just the fairy lights that come with, or that you can get for, $6 or something. And what I'm doing is I'm using white gaffer's tape, and that you can get that on Amazon. And it's a tape that really holds down really well, but then is really easy to pull back up off of most surfaces. And that gaffer's tape is used to tape down those fairy lights. You can see in this shot right here a real good example of that. And the fairy lights are going right on to the styrofoam insulation, which means they'll be under whatever I put there for covering, which is this cottony snow stuff. And it's something, I don't think I've seen anybody else do this in their Christmas village, but it lights the snow from underneath, and it really gives the display a fantasy, almost I don't know if ethereal is the right word, but it really adds warmth and a little bit of action isn't quite the right word, right? But it just makes the thing come alive a little bit more in a sort of fantastical, surreal way that's really appealing. So if you've never done that before with your display, give that a try and see if you like it. I used to use blue Christmas lights for that because I was trying to give the idea of water. So it was almost like there's a stream or a river running through the village, because I do have a bridge. I have a bridge that, like a park bridge, and so the idea is that a stream is running underneath, and so I had blue Christmas lights for that. But I think they broke, and the fairy lights were being used somewhere else in the house, and then that wherever we were using them, we changed what we were doing there, and so the fairy lights became available. So you can see here just getting that snow down now to cover up that big gap I had where I put a few battery boxes for the accessories. And you saw me doing a lot of plugging AC adapters into the fairy boxes. So I try to run the entire village off of AC and not use batteries. Number one, I hate buying batteries every year. In this case, with the train, I can't do that, so the train is running on C batteries. But for other things, I actually would hack into some of the accessories that are battery only, and I would solder on to them the jacks that you would use for AC power adapters. You got to get the voltage right, and you can order all these parts off of Amazon. If you know what you're doing, you can convert your battery accessories to run off of electric power supplies, which then all feeds into a timer, which is the goal. So this whole thing becomes automated in the sense that it turns on around 4 p.m. every afternoon, which during this season, that's when it starts to get dark in the room. I think it stays on until past 11 p.m. And it's just really nice. It's really nice to, come home from work or whatever it is and walk into the house, and then this is one of the first things you see, and when it's lit up, and it's just great. During winter, we live where it does snow, and so it's pretty neat to walk into the house, come out of the cold, and kind of have this warmth of this display. So again, just fitting in the snow around all the accessories and the wiring. I'm going to lay out the fencing now to go around the park, which, when you do think about a realism perspective here a little bit, that's essential because this town built this park right up against the railroad tracks. Don't know what the village council was thinking there, but so we'll put up wooden picket fencing to keep the kids and dogs from running out onto the train tracks. So now that we're getting that snow laid down, we can get the train tracks coming out on top of it. I did a little thing here where it's a little hard to see here, but the train track does a little curve in. It doesn't just do a straight run all the way across left to right like it's an oval. So it does a little curve in here to give me that space in front of the tracks for kind of I think the stream type of idea I was going for. So I think I'll be setting the footbridge over that, which doesn't make any sense to have a footbridge right up against the train tracks. But again, I'm trying to fit together pieces that I've acquired over many, many years, and I don't know. I thought it looked pretty cool at the end. Another thing is cars. These are just cars. These cars are from Michaels. They're the die-cast metal cars that Michaels has in a random end cap or something. It's at some point there in the store. They just happen to be close enough in scale that they work, and it just helps again to fill out the village, to give the village some life. Um, Lots, people accessories. So those are your main things, right? Accessories that are people, cars, and then trees. Those are some things that people don't think about when they start putting together a Christmas village. I didn't have those things for quite a long time. I just had buildings and with a few trees, and it just seemed like it was a lifeless village. Like, oh, everybody's inside, keeping warm. So lights bring life to your display. And then it was really cool to add the train this year, uh, because that's a large piece of movement, right? That really brings life to the display. And of course, the train doesn't run all the time. It's running on some C batteries, and it does make noise, of course, when it runs. So we only run the train when we really kind of come into the room to show the display. So if we have some visitors, family members, friends come over, whatever it is, we'll run the train, want to show off the display. Sometimes from time to time I like to just come in and just enjoy the display, just stand there for a few minutes, soaking it all in, and so I'll run the train a little bit. And here we go, filling in all those trees now. You can get sets of trees from Michaels. You don't have to spend a lot for, official like Department 56 trees or things like that. Just your local hobby shop or whatever it is, just get a bunch of trees, get a bunch of cheap ones. And you can mix them in with higher quality ones. Nobody will know the wiser. And then what you can see here is then I start taking all the boxes so we have a basement where we keep all this stuff during the year. But boy, what a pain that is to run the boxes up and down the stairs. So instead of taking all the boxes back down to, and this is extra, that's extra insulation panels that I ended up not using. Again, this was a new layout, so I didn't know how much styrofoam I needed to use from my existing collection. But there you go. Fill in the boxes underneath. I think I have, trying to remember if I had a sheet that I put across there to hide all the boxes, like a tablecloth. I did have that one year, but the dogs kept being a problem. But anyway, there it is. Hope you enjoyed the build, and I hope it inspired you to do your own builds this year or in the near future. So take care, and I know it's a little bit early, but Merry Christmas and all that.